Welcome to Bear Tracks, the official podcast for Butler Community College. In each episode, we feature inspirational and lively conversations with our graduates about their memories of student days, stories, challenges, and career highlights. We have so many alumni who are leading change and innovation in their respective fields around the world. And whether you're a recent graduate or a seasoned professional, we hope you'll find inspiration and new perspectives through the conversations we have on this show. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the episode. Today we are so thrilled to have 1980 Butler alumnus Ron Ragan join us. Ron is a professor at the KU School of Pharmacy, and he's been many other things before that, and we will talk about it. But Ron, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us on Bear Tracks today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad to be here and glad to share some stories about Butler County. So look forward to that.
Good. So 1980 was when the college where it's at in El Dorado now was still fairly new-ish, the campus. What were things like as a student for you back then?
Well, my first year there, I lived in the dormitory, and I say the dormitory. It was a single building. Half of it was male, half female, and I believe it was just a two-story building. So relatively small, but what an absolutely incredible opportunity to meet people from all over and to develop some friendships that I still have today. It was a time of growth, obviously personal growth. I think back on that time and I think about the opportunities that we had to learn how to make decisions, right? We made some really good decisions personally. I think all of us did. And we made some that we learned from that maybe weren't the greatest, but that was part of the opportunity that we had. And that's part of how we grew and developed some of the skill sets that we all have today.
What was the catalyst that made you choose Butler as your entry point to higher education?
Yeah, well, to be brutally honest, I got the opportunity to play basketball and to try out for the team. And that was very important to me at the time. And Butler was a good school and a school that I had opportunities not just to learn and grow academically, but also to continue for a couple more years my basketball career.
What was a favorite memory from your time on the basketball team?
Probably the travel. This was the old days, right? We started out traveling in vans. So the coaches drove and we piled in two separate vans and drove. My second year, we had really incredible change and we got a new coach actually that year. And one of the things that he was able to negotiate was travel on Greyhound buses. So we just thought we really had hit the big time. I remember crawling up in the luggage rack to sleep at 2:00 in the morning on the way home from Seward County playing basketball there. So good memories, really had some great teammates. And I have to say, I learned a lot from our coaching staff, especially my first year.
The traveling in vans hasn't necessarily changed all that much. It depends on how many sports are going places at any given semester. I remember my roommate at Butler was a cross-country runner, and she rode in the vans, and sometimes she had to drive the vans. So the vans are still around. Hopefully, newer vans, I'm sure, but that's so fun. You mentioned your first year. Was it were you learning all new things? Do you feel like it was just such an eye-opening experience to go to college where you were challenged maybe?
For me, it was a transition. I grew up in a small rural community in Kansas, a 1A school. So literally I had 26, I believe, in my graduating class. So it was a transition. I think to go to a R1 university for me would have created some struggles that would have been difficult to surmount. But Butler kind of gave me the opportunity to transition into that. While they weren't small, I mean, the classes were not necessarily small. They were larger than I had in high school, but they weren't 600 students in my organic chemistry class or anything like that. So that was part of, when I look back at those years and that growth, that was part of what was special for me about my time at Butler County. That growth allowed me to learn how to interact and to be part of a learning system that was more than just a handful of students. I still remember a couple of our faculty members that were quite impactful. Mr. Pettis taught me chemistry and probably taught me a lot more than chemistry, but I, I, I think back on those times and I know deep in my heart that changed my career trajectory, that gave me a career trajectory, if you will. I don't think I'd have been able to do some of the things that I've had the opportunity to do without that transition into, I think of what I experienced as a blend, a healthy blend of rigorous academic coursework and preparation, but yet it could be blended with some personal guidance and growth. And I think that blend that I found at Butler County really allowed me to take the next step and move towards professional education in pharmacy and then in graduate school at KU.
A lot of times, regardless of the student's background, they're all coming to Butler for that similar reason. I need a better starting step into higher education, whether they be from a small town like you were, or if they're an athlete who's looking to get their academics back on track, or maybe this is the first one in their family to go to college. They're a first generation student. So even though everybody's so diverse, that tends to be the big reason that they come to Butler and to community colleges, and I think that's really special. You mentioned that it gave you a career trajectory. I was going to ask, did you know you wanted to go into pharmacy before, or was it during college?
I had a pretty good idea coming to Butler County that pharmacy was I wasn't coming from a small school, small classes. I probably wasn't as confident as some of my classmates, but I found pretty quickly that with a lot of hard work, you could prepare to do anything you wanted. And so for me, it allowed me to really realize those dreams, if you will.
A lot has changed since the '80s in healthcare. What has been one of the biggest changes you've seen in the pharmacy world and that landscape through the decades?
Yeah, good question. When I was first out of pharmacy school, that was in the mid 80s, I was part of a graduating class that if you wanted to own a community store, those opportunities were plentiful. You could, if you were a good pharmacist with a personality that allowed you and helped you interact with patients, you really had the opportunity to be wildly successful all across the state of Kansas, whether that's the far western corners of our state or whether it's Johnson County or Sedgwick County. You really had a lot of opportunities. Now, I think the students that we train when they graduate, they have to be good business people to do that. And you don't get the chance to kind of get on your feet, if you will, from a business perspective. You've got to be ready to hit the ground running because the margins are tighter than they ever were. It's just a tough business to make it. And the clinical work has gotten much more complicated too. We've got dozens and dozens of drugs that weren't even in the research pipeline when I was a student. And so that's probably the biggest difference that I see. It's still the same skill sets that make you successful. You have to be a competent clinician, practitioner, and you have to be able to run a business if you want to own a business. If you want to work in a larger corporate environment, communication skills are incredibly important. But again, those were important in 1984. It's just that they're probably even more important now, I think, to get a quick start on whatever.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My aunt and uncle owned an independent pharmacy, and I mean, they worked all the time until they retired, but they were very selective when they sold it because they wanted the exact values that you're talking about to be passed down from them to the next owner because of the relationships they built with their clients and such. So, yeah, I think that sometimes in the scientific world and community, the interpersonal relations can feel like you don't need them, but they're just as essential as as knowing your stuff.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's amazing when you realize that the things that you learned in that English class when you were sitting there kind of, of course, paying attention, but maybe not as close attention as you could have paid, right?
Yeah.
Some of those skills and some of that knowledge blended with the speech or communication class that you had. And that's what you're using. That's what you use to interface with your patients and to help them understand medication therapy and how they should take it and what they should expect. So, yeah, I think that it's incredibly important. Again, the foundation, knowledge, and skill that you build in your first year in college, I think sets you up.
Do you find as you're a professor now at the pharmacy school at KU that your students are prepared when they get to the level you're at, or do they still have some training in those areas to do?
No, it's a blend. It is. Some students come to us incredibly well prepared. They've thought out the details, the minute details regarding their career, even their academic preparation and career. And then we have some students that come to us that clearly have the raw ability, the talent, but are not quite there yet. So that's one of the things about, I think, being a faculty member in a professional program where you blend students that have gone all the way through the program at your institution, in my case, KU, or if they're transfer students, say from Butler County or from any of the other community colleges in Kansas, or really across the nation. It's that blending, and that's just like the experience I had when I came to Butler County and how it was a transition. There's a transition also when you transition into a professional program. And it's really an honor. It's incredibly rewarding to be part of that now on the other side and to help students make that transition. And I have to say, I understand a little bit. I still remember some of those challenges. We don't expect perfection on day one. And just a little bit of patience, I think, is important to help them acquire the skill set that they need to really prepare to practice pharmacy.
You kindly gave us a quote for the Foundation magazine last year about our chemistry students in particular. We were talking about the students from Robert Carlson's program at Butler that are transferring and that KU likes to get Butler students because they do have the preparedness that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And still feel that way. We have a branch campus in Wichita, and for us, that works out really well. Not only do we get students from universities in Wichita, but it allows us to tap into those students from community colleges that we know prepare students well. Butler County is one of those that we like to see students. And again, it's that remixing of student experiences, right? So if you've got a student that went to a large 4-year university for their first 2 years, and you have a group of Butler students or a group of students from 2-year institutions. That's a remix, again, rewarding, but I think it's also very valuable for both students, both the community college student and the 4-year student to remix and kind of learn from each other in that process.
We hear a lot from not just other schools, but from different hospitals, who love our nursing program students, different businesses in the area that they love to get Butler students because they know what they're getting with them. So it's just always nice to hear that be reinforced. We're going to come back to KU in a second, but I definitely want to touch on your time at High Point in North Carolina because you did something really incredible and you basically started the Fred Wilson School of Pharmacy down there. Can you just kind of walk us through that journey? Because that was probably no small order.
Opportunity that, as I thought about that, there are 142 schools of pharmacy in the United States. So that means there's 141 other people that have had the opportunity to do what I got to do in High Point. I've got to say this because it's the truth. I had a really supportive administrative team above me, the provost, the president, and that's part of what makes that magic possible. But, I had the opportunity I was employee number one of the Fred Wilson School of Pharmacy, and I was the only employee for about it might have been 4 months, which, by the way, means I had employee of the month at the School of Pharmacy. I got for 4 months there, right?
Absolutely.
But I got the opportunity to hire my leadership team and really develop the foundation of what our curriculum would be. That drew upon many skills and talents that I can trace back to Butler County, but I also got to polish a bit in my years after that. But I still remember showing up that first week. My office, by the way, was in a conference room for the first 3 months. And I remember sitting down and saying, all right, here we go. Let's do this. And so I hired that administrative team, my support team on top of that, the administrative assistants and support for the school, began to recruit the first class. Really, you've got to reach out to pharmacists in the state and say, we have a new school of pharmacy that we're developing. These are the core values of our school. This is why you should consider referring interested students to us, because we're going to help them develop those clinical skills that are so important in our profession. We're going to help them develop them on a firm foundation of solid science. So it's not going to be just a clinical house. It's going to be a school of pharmacy built on science. So really an exciting time. I'm fortunate that I was able to put together really a strong leadership team. And that's not always easy either. Finding them's not always easy. But sometimes, to be honest with you, empowering them is equally difficult. But that's the formula, I believe, that allowed us to be successful, putting good people in charge and letting them do what I know that they could do very well, and supporting them and kind of keeping them in bounds as we went through that process. So it was people, it was the faculty, the staff, the leadership team, it was our students. And then another incredible experience that was part of that was building a brand new building. So I got to help design from literally from it was a concept when I first stepped foot on campus, and we got to design that facility and build the labs the way we wanted them, build the teaching, the lecture rooms the way that we wanted them and the way that we wanted to teach, and to make sure that we got the tools for that. So what an experience. I talked to, I believe, every incoming student personally for the first 2 years in the School of Pharmacy. So it
That's
was
neat.
a labor of love.
And those kinds of projects, when you are so ingrained in what's going on and it's really the thing that you're building, it can be hard to let them go sometimes. Was it hard to take an offer back at KU, or did you find like you had built the right team and empowered all of the right people to leave High Point in really good hands?
Honestly, it was incredibly difficult to leave High Point. I mean, geographically, it's a wonderful place. The university is a exciting, dynamic, growing university with some really incredible leadership. But I'd also put together really a strong, impressive leadership team. And it's kind of hard to say no when your alma mater comes knocking at your door. So
Yes, I can attest to that.
it's an honor to have them seek you out and recruit you. And I recognize that for what it is, an honor, but still, there's a lot of work to do if you decide to make that move.
When did you decide to move from dean of the school at KU to professor and doing more consulting work?
Yeah. About 6 months ago. So I agreed to a 5-year term as dean. And at the end of that, I decided it was time to move on to some other challenges. It had been a long and a tough 5 years. So we had a healthcare scare in there, obviously, with the pandemic, and that provided some challenges for us, delivering a quality program without interruption, which I'm incredibly proud of, and keeping our faculty and our staff and our students safe. So lots and lots of issues around COVID. And at the same time, we were providing care too. I mean, this is a school of pharmacy, right? So we have clinicians that are able to reconstitute and inject literally life-saving immunizations in that case. It was a position that I'll remember forever. The challenges that we had in front of us, yet kind of rallying your staff, your faculty, your alums in some cases to help us provide immunizations and address the pandemic in our own community. So some of those challenges took a lot of time and effort. And I felt like at the end of 5 years, it was probably time to let someone else come in and take over. So
And are you enjoying being back in the classroom per se with students that way?
love it. Well, I'm just now getting back into the classroom. So
Oh, this will be
uh,
your first.
that's correct.
Oh, good. That'll be fun.
So really looking forward to that. It's been years since I got to really teach an entire class from start to finish. I've done a number of lectures, but that's different than having your own class that you teach. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That'll be great. Just getting to connect with students again on the more personal level. Fun. So, because you have such a wide breadth of experience, if we have some listeners, hopefully, who are considering attending community college, what would you want them to know beyond the things maybe that we've already discussed as they're making that decision?
It is a wonderful opportunity to begin that growth process. And it depends on you as the student and maybe with mom and dad or whoever the loved one is that is helping them make those decisions. It really is an opportunity, but it's an opportunity that maybe isn't right for everyone. But I have a lot of colleagues that understand the importance of that transition from being a kind of a passive high school learner to an active college learner to prepare to take care of. So I would say, number one, absolutely don't shy away from the opportunity to begin your career at a community college. Pick wisely, pick a good community college that has some strengths in the areas that you need strengths in. And don't shy away from it. And goodness, by all means, you be the one that's in charge of your education. I think one of my frustrations as an administrator and a faculty member over the years is when a student expects the university or the faculty member to come to them. And we do that sometimes. I don't mean to imply that never happens, but the most successful students are the students that realize that whether they succeed or not depends on them. And they don't have to be a perfect student. They don't have to be a 4.0 student even. It's nice if they are, but they certainly don't have to be. But they have to seek help and continue to, if they have a challenge or an issue, they have to be in charge of resolving that. And I can guarantee you at Butler County, that help was there. I'm living proof that help was there. And so don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And certainly don't be afraid to go to a good, solid community college to prepare for the rest of your career.
Absolutely life advice to live by. Ron, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your expertise and sharing about all of your career, which has been very impressive and so interesting. And thank you for your pride as a Grizzly.
Absolutely. Thank you. I enjoyed our time and I love watching Butler County and watching them grow and seeing the students that they turn out.
Thanks for listening to Bear Tracks, the official podcast of Butler Community College. We hope you found the conversation as entertaining and enlightening as we did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and don't forget to visit our website or email us at beartrackspodcast@butlercc.edu for more resources and opportunities to connect. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you more thought-provoking conversations on the next episode of Bear Tracks.